What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Oh, do we have an awesome one for you guys tonight. So before we get started, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got a ton of awesome content, everything from new recipes to recipe reviews, as well as full day of eating and training and all that good jazz. Be sure to check me out on Instagram if you haven't already. That's where I primarily update folks on upcoming videos, as well as take polls or questions and just gather general feedback on new content pieces. So without getting too far into the intro, I know all of us love a solid cookie dough recipe. I gotta say, it's probably the quintessential dessert, snack, treat, whatever you want to call it, on everyone's cheat list. But I must say, within the anabolic world, it has been a difficult road. I've tried a lot of different cookie dough recipes. They've either been too oily, too sticky, or just not really fitting the balance between the macros and the overall taste and flavor. But I know Nick has been working on this recipe for quite some time and has absolutely poured his heart and soul into this one. So I'm really excited to dive right into this and see what this recipe is all about. And as always, give you guys an honest full 360 review on this recipe. And Nick, no matter what's said tonight, I absolutely love you, buddy. But otherwise, let's get into this. All right, so to kick this recipe off, we're gonna use 90 grams of flour. Next up, we've got 2 scoops or 66 grams of a whey protein. Then we've got 24 grams of a swerve brown sugar. Next, we'll use 24 grams of a granular sugar. Then we've got 1.5 grams of salt. Next, we've got 2 whole large eggs. And you know we love ourselves some extra butter. We're gonna go ahead and use 42 grams or 3 tablespoons of a light butter. Next, we've got 1 teaspoon of a vanilla extract. And then we've got ourselves 1.5 servings of chocolate chips. Now guys, for the first step of this recipe, we're gonna take 90 grams of our unbleached flour and then heat it up in the microwave. He's also suggested using the oven. It's just another option, but today we're gonna make it easy on ourselves and throw it into the microwave. Get it to the point where it's about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, definitely get yourself a food related thermometer. It'll help you guys to actually measure out and make sure you're getting the right temperature. And obviously temperature is gonna be very precise in terms of 160 to 165 degrees in order to really make sure that we're killing any type of microbes or bacteria that are in the flour. And again, the flour is technically raw. You can also buy heat treated flours at, I'd say, most type of grocery stores. You're more than likely going to come across it like your Whole Foods or Sprouts type of groceries. But we're gonna go ahead and measure out 90 grams of flour, throw it into the microwave, and I'll see you guys back in a second. And just as a heads up, guys, today we're gonna actually use a candy thermometer. Now I picked this up off of Amazon for like 10 bucks. And so just so you guys know the difference between a meat thermometer and also a candy thermometer, you're just gonna have a larger range and the temperature that can be measured. So this one goes up to roughly about 400 degrees, and I think most candy thermometers will go up to 400, whereas your meat thermometer traditionally will go up from, I think, 120, 140, all the way up to 220. So these candy thermometers really just give you a large range to work with. So right now we're at almost 120. We'll probably throw it into the microwave probably 2 or 3 more times to get it up to roughly about 160. All right guys, so we're just a tad over 160, so I think we're in a good spot. We're gonna go ahead and let this cool for a little bit. It's definitely a little warm, and then we'll get into adding the other ingredients in. So next up, we're gonna go ahead and use 66 grams of a whey protein. Now, we're not using a whey protein or casein mix. I'd imagine that would be probably easily substituted, but we're gonna go ahead and use Transparent Labs cinnamon pastry whey protein. Obviously my absolute favorite, anything cinnamon, but we're gonna go ahead and measure out 66 grams. So we got 1 scoop, that's roughly about 30 grams there. All right, money, 66 grams of protein. So since I don't have a micro scale, I'm just gonna eyeball this, but we're gonna go ahead and add 1.5 grams of table salt. Now that we've got all the dry ingredients in here, guys, we're gonna give this a nice mix. Again, really the point of this is really just to make sure that we're preventing any type of clumping, but otherwise, we're gonna hop into the wet ingredients. So now that we've got the wet and dry ingredients ready to rock and roll, we're gonna go ahead and take our dry ingredients and split it into 4 parts and mix it into the wet ingredients. So we'll see how this goes, but in terms of the overall volume that I'm seeing here, it's looking to be a pretty good amount. So after putting the first set of dry ingredients into the wet, this is what the consistency of the cookie dough is looking like. It's a little runny, but we'll go ahead and continue to add in the rest of the dry ingredients, and this will definitely thicken up. And we're back. The cookie dough absolutely smells delicious, so I'm ready to dive into this. But you guys know the deal. Let's get into the 3 categories: anabolics, taste, and craving. Now for anabolics, let's take a look at the total calories and the macro breakdown. For this entire batch, which is roughly about 350 grams in total weight, we're looking at a total of 838 total calories with 22 grams of fat, 80 grams of protein, and 80 grams of net carbs. Now, just as a reminder guys, since erythritol is the only sugar alcohol being used in this recipe, we can go ahead and actually remove the carb count from this overall macro breakdown, which gives us 80 total grams of net carbs. But with that being said, if you're not familiar with erythritol is very popular amongst diabetics, especially because the sugar itself does not pass through the body and into the gut, which like 90% of the actual sugars flow through the bloodstream, and allows a lot of diabetic folks to enjoy desserts and sweets using erythritol. And this is one of the main reasons why Quest Nutrition really made an impact on the protein industry, not just necessarily for their flavor, but because this was extremely popular amongst diabetic folks. And having taken a look at that total calorie and macro breakdown, let's take a look at what one actual serving of a store-bought cookie dough looks like. Today we're using Nestle Toll House's edible chocolate chip cookie dough as a point of reference. Here we've got 28 grams of each cookie dough, Nestle Toll House and Exercise for Cheat Meals. But in terms of total calories and macro breakdown, for Nestle Toll House's chocolate chip cookie dough, we're looking at a total of 140 total calories with 4.5 grams of fat, 1 gram of protein, and 25 grams of carbs. So overall, definitely a little high on the carbohydrate side. And now let's take a look at 28 grams of Exercise for Cheat Meals cookie dough. In terms of total calories and macro breakdown, we're looking at 92 total calories, 2.4 grams of fat, 8.8 grams of protein, and 8.8 grams of carbs. Now, I don't know if I need to say any more or paint this picture any clearer, but that calorie and total macro breakdown is just absolutely pristine, especially when we're talking about cookie dough. And cookie dough is just traditionally a lot higher in sugar and fats to really just give you that consistency and the overall texture that you're always looking for, right? And that buttery goodness is just very hard to beat. Now, just as a point of reference, guys, 28 grams, we've got store-bought cookie dough versus Exercise for Cheat Meals cookie dough. And I gotta say, when you think about the macro and calorie breakdown, 8 grams of protein versus 1 gram of protein in these same amounts, we're looking pretty freaking good. So we're gonna go ahead and rate this as a solid 10. And now on to taste. And here's a quick look at Nestle Toll House's edible chocolate chip cookie dough. Just a little thicker, less runny. You guys know I gotta feed you. So here's what the cookie dough is looking like after sitting in the fridge and having cooled down for about an hour to an hour and a half. You can tell the cookie dough is extremely silky smooth and texture is a little sticky, gummy. Definitely not your traditional type of cookie dough that you would see at the store, but for very good reasons. We'll get into that in just a second. But this is what we're dealing with, and I don't know about you, but I'm dying to try this out. All right, cheers, boys. Hot damn. Woo! Gotta go in for another taste test. Cheers. Let's go. Where do I begin? Nestle Toll House is probably one of the easiest brands to reference this cookie dough recipe against. And usually when I think of a cookie dough, I think of something that's gonna be extremely thick, tons of chocolate chips, and then also a slight grittiness to the overall texture. And for me, that brings back a flood of memories, especially when we're talking about cookie dough. Now, with that being said, this cookie dough by Exercise for Cheat Meals is absolutely buttery, silky smooth, and to me really comes off more as a batter than an actual cookie dough. And I will say that there's definitely very good reason for the actual consistency and the texture that we've got here. Now, I'm definitely not taking away any points from that, but I think it's important for folks to know that you're dealing with more of a batter consistency. So now in terms of overall taste, I'm gonna say that this really hits on all cylinders, guys. The overall balance and flavors and the ingredients just absolutely blend extremely well, and you get a very even flavor. Now for me, I personally prefer a thicker cookie dough, but at the same component, I do think a lot of folks are gonna absolutely enjoy this recipe. This recipe really does the anabolic cookie dough justice, and you guys, I'm gonna leave it up to you guys to try it out and let me know what your thoughts are of this recipe. But at the end of the day, this really does hit on all cylinders in terms of overall flavor, texture, and consistency. And also a very good point that has been brought up in his video is that texture does not always equate to the overall flavor and just being more awesome of a cookie dough. Now, with all of that in mind, we're gonna go ahead and rate this as a solid 10. And actually, you know what? We're gonna give this a star. This definitely deserves a star. Now, is this gonna satisfy your craving? You 100% better believe it. Now, for all of you looking for a lower calorie, higher protein, anabolic cookie dough, look no further, guys. This will definitely satisfy your craving, especially when you're looking for a sweet treat. And I gotta say, it really doesn't take a whole lot of time. This is absolutely easy to prep and gives you a decent amount of volume. But with that, we're gonna give craving a solid 10. Well guys, we just smashed through 3 categories: anabolics, taste, and craving, for a total score of 10. I think this is probably one of the very first recipes that we've hit a total score of 10. I'm absolutely impressed with what Nick has done with this recipe. And for those of you who are just wondering, I mean, just think about the total amount of protein in one serving. 28 grams versus 28 grams, store-bought versus Exercise for Cheat Meals, 8 grams versus 1 gram. I mean, that is a pretty steep difference. And in terms of overall fat, we're cutting it about half. For all of you guys who have made this recipe, let me know in the comments below what has stood out the most to you. For those of you who weren't fans of it, let me know in the comments why. I could definitely see both ends of the spectrum in terms of overall texture and consistency, but for me, this is an absolute no-brainer when you take a look at the complete package of calories, macros, and overall taste and texture and consistency. It's just really a done deal, a big dub right there. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's review on an awesome recipe. One well-deserved for the anabolic community. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got tons of anabolic recipe reviews coming up, along with original recipes and some more fun content related to full days of eating and training life, and all that good jazz. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Absolutely love you guys. Stay safe, stay swole, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.